Our team is 0-2, but there are some little green shoots of life starting to emerge. Welcome back into Off the Wire, the series where I take a dynasty fantasy football team built entirely off the waiver wire and try and turn it into a contender. This is episode 8, and it's been a little bit of time since I actually have recorded. In the last episode, which was still in the off-season, I auctioned off Keenan Allen, ultimately for a 2026 second, which, to be honest, looking at how he's doing right now, feels like a pretty good trade for both sides. But as I said in the intro, I am 0-2 heading into this week, which, to be honest, is no surprises at all given the state of the team, and we are going to take a look at the team in just a minute. One of the things that I am starting to get a little frustrated about is the players that I've missed out on the waiver wire so far, particularly Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, and so I am, giving a big shout out to all of those of you in the comments who were saying, go and pick up JCM, go and look at this guy, because I wasn't a huge fan of him as a prospect coming out, which made me then decide to not go and pick him up, and ultimately that's the waiver wire pickup that you absolutely needed. I also missed out on Jake Browning as well, not that that's a huge issue, but obviously could have sold him off. Having a starting quarterback would have been huge, but when I look at the team at the minute compared to definitely where it started, there are some players that I really like the look of, and I've been making a fair amount of moves. I've not made any trades in a while, but I've been making a fair amount of moves on the waiver wire to try and get some players that I think could contribute. And yeah, as I said, the team is 0-2 currently. But with this team, if there's 3 players that I think can be fantasy relevant heading into Series 2, 2026, heading into the year after, then probably that's been a successful first year. So there's some signs of life. There's some things I'm excited about. Let's kick off by taking a look at the team to give a bit of a refresh of where we are and also show you a few of the moves that I've made, because the team is looking a little bit different to how it was. So let's kick off by taking a little bit of a look at the team itself, because it is quite different to where we were previously. And as you can see, if you have a little bit of a look through, I am currently 0-2 and probably on my way to 0-3, to be honest. Probably on my way to 0-17, at least that's kind of the aim for this season, is probably to lose every game, secure the 101, go again next year. But the aim really is to try and get some pieces that can be more successful long term. So there's 2 strategies, which I think is interesting. One is to try and grab pieces who I think next year and beyond are going to accumulate value. The second strategy is to try and get pieces who this year I can flip for a profit. And I think I'm on my way to doing that. There's definitely a few pieces that I'm gutted to have missed out on waivers. Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, I missed out as well on Jake Browning, which was a shame. I put my chips in on Mac Jones instead, which is probably not the smartest decision. Does give me a starting quarterback, but that doesn't matter for this year actually. So let's have a little bit of a look through the team. I'm going to take you through as well some of the waiver claims that I have in to go through tomorrow, and some of the players available on waivers as well. I'm going to go position by position when we look through the team. So starting off, you can obviously see Mac Jones. Mac I got on waivers for 31 fab, which was way too much. The next highest bid was about 16, 17, but I kind of jumped at the idea of getting a starting quarterback, which, thinking back on it in hindsight, was not the smartest decision, because Mac is only going to start for a couple of weeks. Jake Browning is going to be starting for the whole year, but by that time, I'd used up a lot of my fab, so not the smartest decision from me there. Mac, I think, is an interesting piece, because I might be able to flog him during the season if Brock Purdy is more injured than we think, but also he's played well enough that he might be able to compete for a job next year, so definitely someone that I'm keen to have on the roster. The other quarterbacks I have you can see here, which is Joe Milton and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins I'm keeping because I think he starts again in the NFL. I don't know where and for who, but I think it happens. He's probably a trade option for teams that lose their quarterback towards the middle of the season and want to try and find someone to tide them over if they're playoff contenders. Joe Milton, to be honest, I think is probably a drop candidate and is someone that I've actually put in a waiver claim that would see him being dropped. I understand the argument with his athletic upside, but I just don't think he can throw the ball. And I know that the Cowboys traded for him, but to be honest, the Cowboys have traded for a few players in the past few years and then done absolutely nothing with them. So Joe Milton, I think, is probably someone I might look to move on from at some point. potentially tomorrow when we get to the waivers section. That's it for quarterbacks. At the running back position, I'm actually pretty happy with how this is looking at the minute, particularly with the 2 starters, but the 3 on the bench, maybe not so much. So Blake Corum obviously scored the first rushing touchdown of his career last week against the Titans, and Sean McVay afterwards has said they want to start splitting time a little bit more like 65-35, but that is way improved for Blake Corum. And actually I've been saying a lot through the offseason, people were overdrafting Jarquez Hunter, drafting him in redraft over Blake Corum. Corum is the clear handcuff to Kyren Williams. If Kyren Williams gets an injury, Blake Corum is an absolute league winner, explodes in value, and I can sell him quite easily. But even for the time being, he is looking like a good piece. Ollie Gordon is someone else that I've managed to pick up. So let's check when I actually picked him up. August 21st, so a fair while ago. Now, completely free off waivers, didn't bid for him at all. Ollie Gordon obviously saw his highest amount of carries this week and scored a touchdown. 4.22 yards per carry is not too bad at all. Offers a really different profile to Devon Achane. So in that rushing game, I really like him as the RB2 there, and as my RB2 is quite exciting. The other running backs here, Roshan Johnson, so I did trade for him for a third in the offseason because I thought potentially we could make something happen there, and he might end up as the RB1 in Chicago. It's currently the RB3 and a healthy scratch last week. Probably not the sort of player I want to build around, so yeah, that's a miss, but I'm quite happy spending that late round draft capital, not my own third. Wow, imagine spending my own first on him, the 101. Not my own third, that's going to be the 301, but someone else's, I'm fine with sending that sort of thing away. The other 2 are Dameon Pierce and Keaton Mitchell, both healthy scratches last week. Keaton Mitchell is explosive, but has really done nothing this season, and I think potentially is someone that I might look to cut going forwards. Dameon Pierce, again, a healthy scratch last week. I'm just think potentially going to cut or put in a waiver claim to get rid of him, because I think there's other players that can provide slightly more value than Dameon Pierce, but I don't mind picking him up in the first place. On the taxi squad, we do have another running back in Brashard Smith, who's probably going to stay there for a bit. Really not done anything through the first few weeks. Had his first career carry for 2 yards, but also seeing a small amount of uptick in snaps. The running back depth chart there is really quite bad in Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, so I'm really happy having that upside shot on my taxi squad. Wide receiver, and this is where there's probably been the most change recently, and it's something I'm really interested in. So Kayshon Boutte, I managed to pick up for 6 fab. Boutte ran incredibly pure on touchdowns so far, and actually towards the end of last season as well, if you take a little bit of a look, some really strong finishes in week 16 and week 18. And then currently is the wide receiver 31 on the season. 8 targets, 103 yards in week 1. Obviously, just the 1 target for a touchdown this last week. But for 6 fab for a young player who was exceptional at LSU, it's really strange that things have really fallen to pieces for him. Someone I'm really happy to have that upside shot on, and really in quite a bad wide receiver core as well, or quite an uncertain wide receiver core. Someone I'm quite happy to be able to take a bit of a punt on and see if they can break things out. Christian Kirk I then have as well. That's someone I'm looking to sell potentially when he does eventually get back onto the field, maybe tomorrow. The Texans haven't been playing their rookie wide receivers. Jaden Higgins a little bit more than Jalen Knoll, but Christian Kirk is clearly the starter in the slot, so I should be able to sell him for a nice pick or something else going forwards. Calvin Austin, again, I picked up. He's the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh, but is that going to translate to anything? I don't really know. But as an upside shot, I'm relatively happy with having him on the bench. Then the other wide receivers, Malik Washington, Jordan Whittington, and Adam Thielen. Malik Washington I really like. He's getting wide receiver 3 snaps for Miami currently. Obviously, the offense is terrible. Tyreek Hill might be traded, so you might find he finds himself as the wide receiver 2 down the stretch and then gets some value. Jordan Whittington is the wide receiver 3 in Los Angeles, but to be honest, is that going to translate into anything? Probably not. And then Adam Thielen. I liked Adam Thielen when he was traded to the Vikings and tried to sell him. You can see currently that I have any pick for a nice win now piece. And that obviously didn't end up happening. I thought there might be some potential in this offense, and with him playing as the wide receiver 2 at the beginning, JJ McCarthy has looked pretty bad so far, so Adam Thielen might end up being a cut candidate as well. Then wide receiver, I mean, these two rookies that I have in my taxi squad are probably two of the most exciting things about the team, particularly one of them. So Torrey Horton obviously caught his first NFL pass for a touchdown last week. Seeing 40% of snaps as the wide receiver 3 is pretty encouraging, and obviously caught that touchdown, so that's pretty exciting. But the guy that I am most excited about on my team, and this is my shining star, which probably isn't saying a huge amount, but it is true, is Elik Ayomanor of the Tennessee Titans. Now, Ayomanor was seen as a day 2 talent coming out of Stanford. Actually ended up being drafted well into day 3, but looks every bit the day 2 talent, and the eye test is really important for him here because he's not done a huge amount so far. Obviously the snap count is really encouraging, the target share is really encouraging. This last performance against the Rams was pretty good, and he actually did look the part as well, so I've been really encouraged by Ayomanor, and he's someone that I'm really glad to have on my team. Now, to be honest, I'm probably looking to hold on to him. He's probably the only player here that I'm probably just going to keep you, and I'm probably going to see if you can become anything proper rather than just continuing to flip for more picks. I probably could get a second for him right now, so I'm intrigued to know down below in the comments if you think Ayomanor is actually a sell right now rather than someone to just hold on to and see if they can gain some value, see if we can improve on that later on down the line. I'm perfectly happy selling anyone, to be honest, but Ayomanor is the one player that I look at and go, you could turn into something legitimate, so let's just hold on for a bit and see what you could be. That's it. Oh, I know I missed Romeo Doubs here. Now, Romeo Doubs is an interesting one. He's currently running as the wide receiver 2 or even wide receiver 1 in Green Bay on an exciting offense. Not really translated that to anything successful on the field. 11.8 PPR points this week, scored the touchdown, 4 targets week 1, 5 targets week 2. Romeo Doubs is definitely that I think potentially we could look to sell and see if anyone's interested in him as like a flex level player, because I don't think he's really going to be a consistent feature of this offense there. He's kind of the sacrificial axe type that runs to clear out routes that open things up underneath. But maybe with Jaden Reed injured and maybe with this offense continuing to improve, especially with Tucker Kraft potentially missing this week, then Romeo Doubs could be someone of interest to someone. Maybe we'll put him on the trade block and we'll see if anyone is interested. Then we're going to round things off with the tight ends. Just 2 now. Ben Sinnott did get dropped. I did drop him. And I'm kind of fine with that. He's not really done anything so far this season. He's barely even seeing the field. So we have Brenton Strange and we have Theo Johnson. Obviously, both the tight end ones in their offense could explode. Really young pieces. But is it going to happen? I'm not sure. But I'm quite happy taking a bit of a punt on them and seeing what they can do. Then obviously, I mean, this is the actual crown jewel of our team right here, that we've managed to turn a waiver wire team into now 5 seconds in 2026 and 2/3. Maybe look to move them into future years, but to be honest, the most valuable time to move picks is when you are on the clock, because people get excited. So I'm really excited with how things have gone so far, and there's definitely a chance to turn this into something a little bit more exciting in future. Let's have a look at the moment. I'm going to show you the claims I've currently put in, but first I'm going to show you through the wire itself and see if there's anyone that you think we should maybe be picking up. So there are a few starting quarterbacks for this week only in Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, and Carson Wentz. Mariota is the most exciting one to me, but I'm not looking to pick him up because he's only going to be starting this week, and so if no one else has got him, no one's going to trade for him. I am more interested in Tyrod, and particularly in Carson Wentz, because Wentz is likely to start for a little bit more time. JJ McCarthy, we don't know how injured he is. I'm a little bit suspicious as to if he's injured at all. I know Hayden Winks of Underdog has said the same thing, because he just played really badly, and they might look to just take him out of the game for a few weeks, let things settle, play Wentz. So I'm really intrigued by getting Carson Wentz, so I have made a claim, and I'll show you for who in a minute. Running back, we have some interesting pieces. There's not a huge amount. So Jeremy McNichols, obviously going to be the third down back. Chris Rodriguez was dropped. We have Halani. We have I don't even know this guy's name, Xavier Scott, who is now the RB2 in Minnesota, but I'm not touching that with a barge pole. You know, a few options, nothing really of interest. The one name that is interesting to me is actually Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders has been running as the running back 2 in Dallas, you know, currently the RB39 on the season. It's not particularly exciting, but Miles Sanders is interesting to me given Javonte's injury history. So someone else that I have actually put a claim in on. Then, on the wide receiver front, there's one player here who's absolutely standing out. So you can see Jalen Naylor, Josh Palmer, Dontavian Wicks, Hunter Renfrow, Sterling Shepard. We start getting into some really not very exciting names. Kendrick Bourne, I guess, could be interesting. DeAndre Hopkins still being out there could be interesting. So maybe we'll star him and we'll see later down the line whether or not that's something people are interested in. DeAndre Hopkins is playing. And let's see, what does his snap count say actually on Sleeper? What's it showing as? 18% of snaps and 35% of snaps. Just running really pure on touchdowns. So maybe not someone we really want to be looking towards, but it could be worth a pickup. The guy that I think is Dontavian Wicks. So Dontavian Wicks should be replacing Jaden Reed in the slot or in the wide receiver rotation heading into this week and for the rest of the season, really. Dontavian Wicks, I think, is one of the most talented wide receivers on the team, probably after Matthew Golden, the most talented. So I'm really intrigued to pick him up if that claim goes through and see if there's anything there, see if the opportunity could lead to something. I'm really intrigued by the talent. He's obviously a young player. He's had some flashes. He was a DFS, complete chalk pick and then absolutely busted. So potentially could be worth a pickup and see what happens there. At tight end, there's Schultz, there's Komet, there's Higbee, Tongs, Gesicki, Fant. If I was trying to compete this year, if this was my current team and I thought, do you know what? All in, let's absolutely push the chips in. I'd be looking towards probably Higbee or potentially Komet to pick up and try and compete, but I prefer the tight ends that I have at the moment. But maybe there's some names there that you've spotted that you've thought, actually, this is a guy that you should definitely be picking up, or you need to drop Jordan Whittington and pick up DeAndre Hopkins because there's way more potential there. Maybe I should be, but the strategy I'm trying to take is looking at players who I think can hugely improve in value rather than picking up someone that I think I'm going to sell for max at a 3. Which is kind of my thinking with players like, I've done it with, I sold Keenan Allen. I've managed to move on some players for picks that I'm pretty happy with. Selling Adonai Mitchell. I also, that might have happened in between this and the last recording. That's a pretty exciting one. Let's find this, because this is something you guys are going to want to see. I absolutely should have had this earlier within the episode, but I didn't. So, this happened. This happened right here. I managed to sell Dante Thornton for a 2026 second. And that's something I'm really, really happy to have done. It was a long negotiation for that one. But Dante Thornton is someone I picked up off waivers. Everyone's someone I picked up off waivers, but not even in the initial run. He came a little bit later and managed to sell him for a second. That is incredibly exciting to me. Now, Thornton does look like he could be a player, but selling him for a second round pick? That is a massive win to me. So, is he someone you would have looked to hold on to? Potentially flip later down the line, see if you can get more? I don't know if he's ever going to be worth more than a second round pick. So, I was personally delighted by that one. And it leaves me with so much flexibility with the picks that I have. And I want to know your thoughts as well. Is there anyone that you think is worth the amount now that you think is going to absolutely burst in future, absolutely going to pop off, and that I should be buying low on, selling high, because I do have all these picks and I'm not adverse going and taking a shot on players to see if I can buy some talent instead. Maybe someone like Jaden Reed, maybe someone like Brandon Ayuk, someone that's injured at the minute. I would love if I had enough to go and try and buy Joe Burrow, but that's definitely not going to happen, and the managers in this league are too smart for that. So this episode, a little bit of a reset one. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of the way the team looks currently, if you have any targets you think I should be picking up off waivers, or anyone you think I should be trading, and I will see you in the next one.